Okay, give me 1 minute to set this up and then we're going to dive right in. I usually save reaction videos for Tuesday, but I saw a compilation of TikTok drama that I want to react to because I'm still trying to make up my mind about it. I know there's like one at least greater point I'm hoping to arrive at some point in today's video. I'm just not sure exactly how we're going to get there. And so I'm just inviting you along for the ride. I'm branching out, I'm dipping my toe into this world of TikTok drama, a world I'm very unfamiliar with. I don't have a TikTok, I'm not on TikTok, but I did see a compilation from TYT Sports about this creator, Jen Hamilton. I don't know any of those people, but I have to say this. I was really impressed with Jen, and I kind of wanted to come to her defense. Not that she needs me to defend her, and it seems a bit counterintuitive to be defending a Christian in this manner, but again, all the beef is happening within different groups of Christianity. And if we have to have Christianity, gosh, I just want them to be like Jen. Here's one last caveat I should say, and then we're going to dive in. I don't know Jen. I haven't watched the rest of her videos. She might have things that I find incredibly harmful. We obviously disagree about religion and Jesus and the Bible in general. So this is not me doing a huge flip-flop. And we're going to talk more about this at the end. But from the videos I'm going to show you today, I think there are some really clear things we should all be considering. So let's get into it. Best I can tell, it starts with this video from Jen.
One thing about growing up in the South and growing up in church is that so many of the people you know have been abducted by MAGA. People who used to be like shirt off their back kind of people who now have feelings and beliefs that do not correlate with being a follower of Jesus in any way, shape, or form. Growing up in those places, I am surrounded by that. Like taking my kids to school, MAGA, Trump, MAGA, Trump, MAGA, Trump, all the way there. But I will never stop trying to reach whatever compassion and empathy is left inside. And I had a conversation with somebody today, and I said, if Jesus was here, do you think he would be MAGA? No.
Man, that's so interesting to me, and I think it's because it's a position I haven't had to be in. At no point when I was still a Christian was there this level of MAGA and Christian nationalism, and so I never had to find the balance or the negotiation between believing in the same God and the same Bible as my neighbors, as my fellow Christians, but seeing them take it so very different and in such an even more harmful direction, like Jen has had to do, and good for her on standing up. It is not easy in these states, I live in one too, that are very red, that are very Christian. And of course, I get it as an atheist who isn't participating at all, but she is still in the church, sending her kids to school with these other Christian parents and their kids, and not hopping on that bandwagon of MAGA, not finding empathy to be a sin as just one small example, must be so utterly frustrating in trying to find any connection still within Christianity, or wondering what is going on, what book are these people reading? But therein lies the problem. Because again, for everything that I'm going to agree with Jen, and there's more coming, the problem is that it's not like she's right and the others are wrong. She's more healthy and the others are more disbeneficial, again, just based off this particular instance. But they're also getting their views, their information, their idea of God and what he wants and how we should act from the Bible. So I know at least a part of the point I want to make with all of this is when you see me making videos talking about the harm of Christianity, do I recognize that people like Jen exist? Yes. I'm married to one. My best friends are people like that. I know there are good Christians who really just want to love their neighbor, take care of their community, help those that are hurting. But the problem is that in propping up the Christian religion to do that, you are still providing a path for all the rest of the harm that can be found. Jen is going to be reading us some Bible verses today, and they are some of the better verses in the Bible, but they are not the only verses in the Bible. And so let's just put that aside for a second and kind of get back to how this drama unfolds. One of the next videos we see is her replying to a comment. I'll read the comment first. It says, "Whoa, be careful there. I am happily MAGA and absolutely love Jesus. We are exhausted from liberal nonsense." And I'm sure she got many other comments that were like this or probably even worse, but she's going to reply to this one. I'm going to play that for you now.
For I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty and you gave me a drink. I was a stranger and you invited me into your home. I was naked and you gave me clothing. I was sick and you cared for me. I was in prison and you visited me. Then these righteous ones will reply, Lord, when did we ever see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink, or a stranger and show you hospitality, or naked and give you clothing? When did we ever see you sick or in prison and visit you? And the king will say, I tell you the truth. When you did it to one of the least of these, my brothers and sisters, you are doing it to me. I don't know, sounds pretty liberal. But wait, I think I want to read just one more part of this. Then the king will turn to those on his left and say, away with you, you cursed ones, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his demons. For I was hungry and you didn't feed me. I was thirsty and you didn't give me a drink. I was a stranger and you didn't invite me into your home. I was naked and you didn't give me clothing. I was sick and in prison and you didn't visit me. Then they will reply, Lord, when did we ever see you hungry or thirsty or a stranger or naked or sick or in prison and not help you? And he will answer, I tell you the truth. When you refused to help the least of these, my brothers and sisters, you were refusing to help me.
So again, the past Christian in me loves this. You know, her comment there is, hey, read the red words. And for a long time as a Christian, that's very much how I was. I had dealt with the Old Testament and I thought I understood the New Covenant. And the whole point of Christianity was to be Christ-like. So even if the Bible's confusing, and even if there seems to be this disagreement between God the Father and the actions and words of Jesus, well, some of those actions and words of Jesus, what could I, in all of the chaos and noise, hold on to? The words of Jesus. So I fully get this. Now, I also see how problematic that is now, because A, not everything Jesus says is great. In the middle of reading this, she just reads right over that part where Jesus was like, hey, you know how I made a place for the devil and his demons to burn forever? I'm going to use that for you guys who won't do these things I'm telling you to do. Obey or else, right? Like, it's not all that pretty. But at least the advice that is being given from Jesus is this: take care of your neighbor, feed the hungry, clothe the naked, take care of the poor and the widows, etc. Which, yes, sounds pretty darn liberal. And the Christians here that are hating on Jen are the same ones that think Jesus is too woke. And it's weird because I'm trying to react to this from like multiple vantage points. It's like, in Jen's defense, she is at least keeping Christianity about what it is supposed to be about, being like Jesus. And Jesus wasn't like this. Now, you can get into all of the arguments. Well, it was a different time. They had a different political system. They had a different economic system. Like, it's just apples to oranges. You can't compare it. We don't know what Jesus would have been like in a 21st century America. Sure. In fact, we don't even actually know that Jesus said any of those things. It's kind of a moot point. But insofar as Christians read and believe their Bible and supposedly want to mimic their life after that of Jesus, to be Christ-like, and then to so adamantly go in 180 degrees the opposite direction from where they were going, is beyond frustrating. And it's weird and even hard to say this because I see it as so dishonest, even if it's not intentional. But the only thing modern Christianity has going for it is that they are so good at cherry picking, that they are so good at ignoring the bad parts of the Bible, about not focusing on the end times or the Old Testament or what crazy Paul did. It was just, okay, but what about Jesus, right? And again, I disagree with all of that because I know that it all matters, and I know that it's all wrong, and I know that it can be abused and leading to harm, even when a Christian does cherry pick only the pretty parts and actually lives their life this way. That's the compliment I have for Jen, is that she's at least consistent with what she believes. However, I believe she believes what she believes incorrectly and based off incorrect information. But I've always said the one thing I respect is anyone who actually really believes whatever it is they believe and lives that way. And by the way, and this is the other reason this is so important and why I'm wanting to get in Jen's corner, I, as the atheist, am already, the second you hear me speak, if you're a Christian, your defenses are up. You're going to innately disagree because you believe in God and I don't, because you think the Bible is useful and true and I do not. And so my voice is much better used for the people doubting and deconstructing. But for Christians who are following Trump, who are MAGA, who believe in the sin of empathy, who are supporting the destruction of our Constitution. I believe, truthfully, the only thing that will get to them, that will change their mind, are people like Jen trying to check them with their version of Christianity. And since Christianity is not going to disappear tomorrow, then every once in a while, I think it's important to say, well, here's some Christians doing good. And if Christianity has to exist on a spectrum here at all, can we have more like Jen? Oh, and before I forget, I wanted to point out that last quote on the screen from the Reverend. I love that. I'm going to read it to you. Beware of any Christian movement that demands the government be an instrument of God's wrath, but never a source of God's mercy, generosity, or compassion. Right? Wouldn't that be something? Can you imagine? And again, I don't want Christianity involved in our politics, but since it is, can you imagine if it was using its control and influence and power to actually love our neighbors, to actually take care of the sick and the hungry? If you're going to abuse an entire system, an entire constitution, an entire country, could you at least do so to the benefit of the individuals living within it? Wouldn't that be something? But again, it's kind of another point that I always say, which is, yeah, there's going to be good things that come from Christians. There's good things that come from Muslims. There's good things that come from Hindus. There's good things that come from atheists. But the bad things that come, that are coming, that are already happening, they are happening and being promoted and propped up and supported by people reading their Bible that think they know and love their God, because you can also draw out those parts from the scriptures and from the religion. That's incredibly scary, incredibly problematic, and to me makes it seem like, since it's not true anyways, we should just do away with the whole thing. But again, I understand that current Christians cannot see it in that same way. So here's what happened next. Everybody freaked out, and by everybody I mean probably a loud handful of MAGA Christians, and they tried to get Jen fired. She is a nurse, by the way. The main part of her channel is about her job. She has a lot of stuff about being a mom, a wife, etc. And then, yeah, some Christian stuff. And one of those Christian things being reading the word of God back to MAGA Christians. And they say, you don't deserve to be a nurse. You don't deserve to support your family. If there is one thing that I hate, that is usually found on the left, by the way, it is this whole idea of cancel culture. I'm not saying people should not be held accountable. I am not saying that there are people in power who have abused it and should lose that power. I am talking about anytime you disagree with someone, you try to ruin their life. I hate that. And Christians doing it to Christians is hilarious and so very sad to me. So all of that pushback starts coming, and Jen makes this video to speak on it.
A few days ago, I made this video where literally the entire video, the whole thing, is just me reading Matthew 25:35 through 45. That's it. And it caused a certain subset of people to feel very called out and angry. If you consider yourself to be a follower of Christ, a Christian, someone who wants to spend every day thinking WWJD and hearing the literal words of Jesus read back to you causes you to feel called out or any other emotion other than, man, that is exactly how I live my life and want to continue living my life, so much so that you make a video about it, that says way more about you than it ever will about me.
Pretty good reply. I don't have much to add, but I needed you to see that before we get to our last two videos. This next one is someone that made a reaction to that video from Jen, and then we're going to see Jen's reply to her, and then we'll close out.
Jen Hamilton, I have always loved your content, right? I always have. But what you're doing right now goes against the ethics as a nurse that you took as an oath to care for people. And you know that because you probably took the same ethics class that I did. This is because of what you're doing, reading the Bible and weaponizing people with Jesus. That's wrong in itself too. This is so wrong in so many ways because people need to be able to feel safe when they're under your care. And right now you're making it to where should people feel safe if they're under your care with the beliefs that you're spewing off right now to people?
I'm really a bit torn on this reaction. There's a part of me that likes the idea of leaving belief out of everything, because not everyone does handle it very well or very professionally. And so those lines in the sand can be pretty helpful to just keep people in place, similar to a separation of church and state. However, people are people, and everybody believes in stuff or has a particular worldview or a lack of belief in something. And wouldn't it just be cool if we were judged more on who we are, how we treat other people, how we do our actual jobs, than the perceptions people might have of us because of our beliefs? It's a two-way street, because then you being the person that has those beliefs or lack of belief or different worldview or whatever, you need to keep that in check when you're dealing with the public or doing your job or whatever. However, very quickly, from what I have seen, it didn't seem to me like Jen was doing this from her position as a nurse, nor did it seem like she was weaponizing Jesus or whatever this lady tried to attribute it to. It seemed like in her private life, she was sharing a struggle originally with being ingratiated into a community that has a lot of MAGA Christians that seem to be acting out in ways that are not, to her, biblical. And so she reads the parts of the Bible that she thinks call that out. And it seems to be that simple to me. And I really can see a few sides of this reaction video. And I'm curious about what I actually think about it, or how situationally dependent it is. There are a lot of people like myself that have full-time jobs and then speak out on a particular issue. It doesn't even have to be around religion. Maybe it's politics in general. Maybe it's veganism, stuff like that. Like, people are allowed, I think, to have personal lives. Don't post it from the hospital if you're Jen. When I'm on a call with a client, I'm not making sure they know why I think their religion, if they happen to be religious, is not true and harmful. But insofar as we are staying in our lanes professionally, I hate the concept that then we shouldn't be allowed to say anything personally. But I do admit that in a very connected world that we have today, there are realities. And I think if I'm trying to steelman what this lady is saying back to Jen, it's, hey, you're a delivery nurse. What if someone who's seen your videos because you're so popular is coming in one of the most important moments of their life, giving birth, but they're a MAGA Republican and they see you as their caretaker? Are they going to feel different? Are they going to feel like they can't receive good care from you? Are they going to feel like you're going to do everything you can as well as you can for them? And that might be some projection from them. It might be a whole lot of things, but I think that's what she's trying to say. And I think it's something that content creators like Jen should think about when you have that kind of a job. But I don't know the answer there. And unfortunately, I think we have seen people utilize their religion in the workplace to negative outcomes. And so just better to keep it out of the workplace. But again, Jen's not doing it in the workplace. And Jen's answer here is phenomenal. This is the part of the video that when I saw it, I was like, wow, how wonderful. If this is what Christianity actually was, we might not even need to speak about it anymore. But of course, it's not. But let me play this video from Jen.
What I want you to understand is that I will fight for your right to make your own informed and empowered decisions about your care, including but not limited to using Chick-fil-A sauce as lube, declining any and all interventions that I think are necessary, and also accepting me or not as your nurse. If you feel unsafe with me in any way, I will go out of my way to find you someone that you feel safer with. That's literally my entire platform, fighting for your rights to make the best decision that you can for yourself. But I want to tell you something that's never happened before in the history of the entire world. That I would ever go in to meet my patient, sit down next to them, lean in and say, "Who did you vote for? Because I'm only going to treat you nicely if you voted for who I voted for." That's never happened. You could show up to the hospital wearing a Make America Great Again Trump 2028 flavored labor gown, and I will treat you with the same compassion, dignity, empathy, and respect as I would my own sister. Because that's the whole point. I believe that everyone deserves good care. My immigrant patient, my gay patient, my trans patient, my little girl patients, my Medicaid patients. I am fighting for the rights of everyone. That does not exclude you if you voted differently than me. And maybe that's the difference. I want a world where everyone gets that opportunity. But seeing videos where I'm fighting for the rights of people who don't have that happening for them doesn't exclude you from receiving excellent care.
I love that so much. I literally have goosebumps right now because it's so sweet and special to me to see a human actually love other humans despite their differences. If Christianity ever could be real and that's what it actually looked like, we're fine with it. But of course it's not. And of course those lovely verses that Jen is basing all of these amazing decisions in her personal life off of are not the only verses. It's not even the only things Jesus says. I think it's just an interesting thing to think about. More so what I wanted to get at in looking at these videos is the potential that an actual healthy version of Christianity could have on the world, but that it's obviously not that. It's just more Christian infighting. It's more disagreement. It's more you want to talk about who's weaponizing the Bible, the scriptures, the religion, etc. It's not Jen, but it is still Christians. So I'm thankful for the Jens of the world. And I, again, have many of them in my life, but it doesn't make Christianity true or good. And I know that a lot of people, because they're people in my life and they know all the other people in my life that are these kinds of Christians who really do just want to take care of their neighbor, have a good time, protect their family, love everybody. Generally speaking, there's not a lot of daily issues because of their religion. Those people often are so bewildered by me. Why do I make such a strong stance? Why don't I believe? Why can't I just get on board? Look, it's not that bad. Aren't you glad your family's in this kind of community? And I am glad that my family has the friends they have and the influences that they have for the most part, but not because they're Christians, actually despite their Christianity. Kind of like Jen, I see some of the Christians in my life as amazing, not because of the Bible, even if that's what they think, or their religion, or their relationship with Jesus, but despite it, because I know what the rest of it says. I know the other appalling things you can absolutely justify using the exact same set of 800,000 words. And so no, the fact that good Christians exist, helpful Christians exist, beneficial Christians exist, does not all of a sudden make up for what this religion can and does do and will continue to do, nor does it make it true. So I don't really know how to end this. I still feel like there's so many caveats I want to give, and I want to be certain that I haven't endorsed this or that, but I'm just going to leave it with you. Hopefully you can see my intention with this. For any Christians that are watching, could I just give this to you as a rallying cry that I don't think you're all bad. I think that we have influences in our life that can cause us to do things that can have negative consequences for ourselves and others. And unfortunately, I think one of those big things is religion, is Christianity, is the Bible, is the idea that you can have a personal relationship with an invisible being that does not exist, and what that can do to your psyche and how it can reinforce certain things that you otherwise wouldn't do or say. But you're the best chance we have against the more fundamentalist versions of this, against the MAGA, against Christian nationalism, all of that. You have a voice that I don't. You can still be heard by believers, and that's important. And so I thank Jen for standing up and speaking out, despite our disagreements, for the healthier parts of what she believes. I want to hear from all of you. Truly, I'm still trying to make up my mind on some of these smaller parts of the matter as we go through it, but hearing from other people always helps. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. I'll see you Tuesday with another video, and until then, keep thinking. I wanted to personally thank my top tiers of support: my Iconoclast, Ann, Boris, Grant, GVI, Jimmy, Joe, Kitboga, Matthew, Perry, and Shawn, my Humanist heroes, Craig, James, Jarrod, Kristi, and Matthew, my Atheist advocates, Aquitar, Caleb, Dan, David, Drew, Jeff, Jeffrey, Julie, Malcolm, Paul, Sparky, and Thomas, as well as all of my secular scholar patrons. If you believe in the mission of this channel, please consider joining these fine people.